Okay, so I got the nerd glasses on, I got the hat on backwards, so you know I'm being business. Today I'm bringing you the ultimate guide to band tuning, so don't go away. Sorry guys, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I've done a band tuning video in the past. I do find it's probably incomplete and not as clear as it probably should have been. So today we're going to do a deep dive and create the ultimate guide of band tuning. Now, basically what we're going to do is I'm going to turn you guys around. I'm going to show you what you're going to need to get started. And then we're going to go through step by step by step. And we're really going to figure this out for you. Okay. So let's go ahead, turn this camera around, and we'll see what kind of supplies we're going to need to get started. All right. So the first thing we're going to need is a tape measure. We're going to use this to find our draw length, which is going to be very important to the process. Second thing we're going to need is some elastic. We are going to be using Omega Slings Olympus Green 0.55 today. It's going to be my first test of these bands, so I really want to get a feel for them. We're going to need a band cutting template, something that we could use to create very, very accurate bands. And the band template is the best thing, but you can also use a ruler. If you're using a ruler, you're going to also need a pen. The pen is also going to be handy for us to write down all the information that we find out about the bands on the package, so we don't have to do it every single time. You're going to need a sharp rotary cutter, which is going to be very important. We don't want to have a dull blade because that will cause some issues with the bands and early failures. We're going to need a material to attach the pouches to the elastic. I use a constrictor knot with this 1mm cotton butcher's cord. Works fantastic for me. And obviously you're going to need a pouch of any kind of your choice, which I didn't happen to pull one out, so boo on me, but there you go. This is everything that we're going to need today, guys. Step one is going to be to find your draw length. So I got myself a tape measure here. I got myself a slingshot here. Now what I like to do is I hook the tape measure up to the front of the tape, and I zip it back, and I draw, a little bit too far. I draw right to my anchor point. Now, my anchor point is right here on my cheekbone, and we've come up with 29.5. See that right there? Right at my fingers? So when I'm doing my draw, I'm going to pull from here, stretch it right back, and that's it. 29.5. We got to write that down. All right, so in my book of secrets, I got my draw. It's 29.5 inches. I converted it into centimeters just to make things easier because my table is all in centimeters. We've got 74.93 centimeters. So we're going to use this later on to find out what our active band length is. Okay, my friends. So when you're going to start off, how do you figure out which taper you're going to use and what length it's going to be? Well, that we're going to figure out the length today. This is what we're doing today. But the taper, you're going to have to do a little bit of experimenting to see which one works for you. As you can see, I bought a whole bunch of these things when I was starting out. Some of them are way too long. The bands are too long. They're actually pretty much garbage for me at this point. I should probably get rid of them. But today, we are going to be using a taper of 22 to 12. This is one that I bought off the Sniper Sling website, and it's got a whole bunch of different lengths here for different bands. So we're going to get into that and why this is important a little bit later, but we're going to be using 22 to 12. You'll need to experiment and see which one you like the best, but the steps that we're learning today will all be the same. Now, if you're just starting out and you don't know which template you want to buy, you can get yourself one of these. It's got 3 little adjustment screws, and you can see up close, hopefully you can see those numbers on there, but you can adjust this up and down and figure out different tapers and different lengths. But the bands will be a little bit less precise. Now, we're on to step 3. So just to do a quick recap. Step 1, find your draw length. Step 2, choose a taper. Step 3 is going to be to find the max elongation of the elastic you're using. All different bands and brands have different elongations. Now, if I get one that has a max elongation of 5.5, meaning if I could take 1 centimeter and stretch it out to 5.5 centimeters, then that would mean that has a 550% elongation or a 5 to 1 or 5.5 to 1 ratio. So what we got to do is we got to figure out how long these bands stretch, and what the ratio is. Now, I'm going to turn you around real quick, and we're going to show you how to do that. So what I like to do is I like to take a strip off my elastic. It's going to be about a half centimeter long. Now, this cut on this elastic is a little bit crooked. So we're going to clean it up once. Pull that bit off. And now we're going to march it back up to the line. Here we go. Doesn't have to be perfect, but we want to get it so it's pretty close. There we go. Now we'll cut that elastic again. Now this piece here is going to be the piece that we use. I'll show you how. All right, so we got our piece of elastic, and what we're going to do is we're going to draw a line right here on the piece, and then we're going to draw another line right here. And right now, you can see right here, we are 1 centimeter apart. See that? Okay. So here we are. We've got our elastic stretched out in the center and in the center. So basically, we've gone from 1 centimeter to 7 centimeters. So that's safe to say we've got a ratio of 7 to 1, or this elastic stretches to 700%. Clear? All right, so now that we found the max elongation of our elastic, I have written it down on a piece of paper. You can either chuck this inside so you know what it is the next time you want to make bands, or you can write it on the label here if you're worried about the paper drying out the elastic. I haven't noticed any issue at all for that. We're going to keep this paper out, though, for the time being, because now that we're all set up and we want to figure out what our active band length is going to be, we're going to go ahead and write that information on here too, so we don't have to figure that out in the future. So let's figure out what our active band length is going to be. Okay, so what exactly is an active band length? Let's explain this here real quick. Active band length is your band lying flat on the ground, completely flat, but with no tension on it. Now you see here, I've got a very faint line. This is where that would attach to my forks, and it goes right to where the bands attach to the pouch. Now, if we're looking at this, our active band length would be 130 millimeters or 13 centimeters. Now, that is not a band under tension. It's just a band lying flat in a relaxed state. That is our active band length. We need to figure out what our active band length is going to be on this elastic. Let's do it. Okay, guys, now that we have our draw length and we have the max elongation of the elastic, we want to figure out what our active band length is going to be. Now, we took my draw length, which was 74.93 centimeters. We divided it by 7, which gives us a total of 10.7 centimeters. Okay, now, that won't be long enough for us to measure out and attach a pouch or to the forks. So what I've done is I've added 0.5 of a centimeter or a half centimeter for the fork attachment, which gave us 11.2. And then I added 1 centimeter for the pouch attachment, which ends up giving us 12.2. Now this is a maxed out band. So once we have the pouch on and once we have it attached to the fork, it's going to stretch out and it's going to stop dead right on my anchor point. We will get really fast bands by doing this, but they will not last long. And the draw weight will be heavy, which makes you kind of less accurate. So what I would like to do is I like to add in 1 more centimeter. So we're going to do 13.2 centimeters long. So our band length, before we start cutting our tapers, are going to be 13.2 centimeters. Now, if we remember that elastic stretches from 1 centimeter to 7 centimeters. So 1 centimeter goes a long way. So if I'm pulling to here, if I do another 7 centimeters, it's going to come right back to here. That's a lot of extra. And by doing that, it is going to drop down our speed a little bit, but it will also drop down our draw weight, what makes it more stable and gives you a cleaner release and will make you more accurate. Now, There is no set active band length for anybody. You need to do a little bit of testing and find out what works for you. Do you want to have maximum speed? Well, then go ahead and cut them short, but don't be surprised if you get 50, 60, maybe 100 shots out of your bands and they die. Adding a ½ centimeter will give you an extra 3.5 centimeters on this elastic, which will still give you a very fast ball and reduce the draw weight slightly and increase the longevity slightly. So in this case, I went with 1 centimeter for the first time. Since I'm using these bands, I may actually drop it down a little bit. So let's get a whole total. 13.2 centimeters will give us a pretty decent fast band. They should last pretty well. And just to make things a little bit simpler, I'm going to bump it up to 13.5, just so it makes it easier for us to cut on the elastic. Now, in this case, that will give us a maxed out band plus a little extra and fork and pouch attachment. That's a complete band set for us. Okay, so we're back to the paper. This is our first test. Our elongation is 700% or 7:1. Our max active is 10.7. Our maxed out bands, it will be 12.2. That's how long we'll cut our elastic. But we're going to add in 1 centimeter and a little bit. 1 centimeter will give us 13.2, but we're going to cut our band to 13.5 today just to make things a little bit easier and more clear for our cut bands. So in the future, this will be the number that I use most of the time. So we want to have our bands 13.5. Now, if we want our bands to be a little bit quicker, we'll shave a little bit off this number. If we want them to be a little slower and have an easier draw, we will increase this number. So maybe we want to go up to 14 or so on. But anyway, now that we have all our information here, we'll tuck this inside of our elastic, and we have all our information going forward. If we need to make any adjustments, we could change these numbers on this piece of paper, and the next time we cut our bands, we'll know. All right, so we got our straight edge. Each one of these guys are a centimeter. We want to cut them to 13.5 centimeters. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 1/2. This is where we're going to want to make our cut. Cut is made, and our elastic is out. So we're ready to go. Okay, so at this point, we're ready to cut our bands, and we are going to want to have the sharpest roller that we have to cut this elastic up. We'll put our fingers on there, get a good purchase of our template so it doesn't slip around, and we'll just pass this guy back and forth to get all of our elastic cut up and ready to go. Make sure that you do not cut over your fingers. These rotary cutters can do some pretty heavy damage, and yeah, it would not be a good afternoon for you. But as long as you're using a nice sharp cutter, your elastic should just come apart. Super simple. No sticking, and it gives you no sharp cut edges that may end up snipping off. Now, if you got a nice skinny little piece like this, it's pretty much going to be useless, but you could use it to wrap and tuck your bands after. And one like this size, you can cut that into 2, and that would do a whole setup ready to go. Now, since whenever we're making bands, you want to be as precise as possible. I like to line this guy up with the line here, and we're going to go ahead and draw one line where the pouch is going to attach. Back in the day, I used to just pass the pouch through, and I would use a thumbnail length or up to the cuticle, which was basically 1 centimeter. That also works if you want to go that route, but I just prefer drawing the line on there. And if we're going to be attaching it to the forks and we want to have our ½ centimeter like we decided we were going to do, we'll go ahead and just draw that ½ centimeter on there just to make sure. So when we're setting it all up, we're going to know exactly how this is going to work out. So, whoop, there we go. So we got our 0.5 centimeters drawn out and we got our centimeters drawn out. We're ready to go ahead and start building these bands. All right. So here we have our bands. We've got it lined up for our active band length to check it out, which comes out to just about 12.2 for going right up to that line there, which is our perfect active band length. Plus, we've also added in a little bit. So our total length of our band is 13.5. So our active band length on this guy is actually 12.2. And that should be pretty good. I think we're pretty much set up and ready to go. I think all we have to do now is put a pouch on this band and then attach it to a fork and see how it feels when we draw back. Okay, so here we are. Now basically, so we follow suit and everything remains the same. We're going to go ahead, pinch our elastic. We're going to pull it through the pouch. Give it a stretch. We'll let gravity do its thing. The pouch is going to hang down there. We'll fold this over. Now, if you could see inside here, see that little line is right on the inside edge of the pouch. This is what we're looking for. We'll go ahead and crimp this up. So right now, the pouch is not going to go anywhere. We're all lined up. Everything is in good form and good shape. We're going to have to cut ourselves a couple of pieces of cord for our constrictor knot. And we'll bring over our band tying jig. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and go all crazy with the constrictor knot and show everybody how to tie that. I already have a video on that. If you want to see that video, I'll link it at the end of the end screen, or I'll put it up here in one of those little card things. And we can go with that. But there we go. I got it locked in. We'll stretch this out, and then we'll go ahead and tie this up. There we go. Where'd our scissors go? I find it always better to put your pouches under tension, give it a good tug, and a good snug up that knot real good. And once it's tight, it's not coming loose again. I've never had one of these come loose on me, unless I've tied the knot wrong. So there we have it. There's our band set. Just to finish everything off, we're going to cut off those little ears. Cut this guy off too. There we go. And you can see, just try to make these guys as even as possible, as close as possible to the same. And look at that. Perfectly even band set. Good. Perfect. Okay, now to attach our bands to our frame, we're going to want to slide that in up until where that line attaches there. You can go slightly beyond it if you wanted to, but usually it's pretty much set up in there and locked in. So we got it right up to the line, and we're going to go ahead and tighten that down. Not like superhero tight, just snug it up pretty good. There we go. All right, now you can see as we squished it out, the line came out, but when we put it on there, it was flush, and that's just the stretch of it pulling it out a little bit. But let me take this camera down. We'll set it up on the other side, and we'll actually see how this stretch feels when we pull it back. All right, so we got the S Enlivener here, all dolled up in some Omega slings, Olympus Green 0.55. Now, remember, we set these up originally for our anchor point, right? And then we added a little bit of extra, which is around 7 centimeters, okay? Now, if I measure out 7 centimeters with my fingers, so from fingernail to fingernail, it's about this. My anchor point's here. We should land somewhere around here on my face with a full draw where it stops dead. Let's see. I'm going to back it up, see if the math works. Right here, is my thumbnail, where I start, where my anchor point is. I stretch out on a full draw. We're feeling pretty good. And look, the math works. It's right there. And right where I got to the back, that's where they stop dead. Now, if we want these bands to be a little bit quicker, we're going to cut off maybe a 0.5 centimeter increment as we go down, even smaller than that. If we wanted to cut off a couple millimeters here, millimeters there. If I wanted to reduce the draw weight and knowing I'm going to reduce the speed but increase longevity, I will add a little bit of elastic to it in 0.5 centimeter increments. Finally, when I get down to that spot where I really, really like those bands, that's where I'm going to take my little paper. I'm going to write all the information I need, either on the pouch or on the paper, tuck it in there, and that's it. Going forward, this is where we're at. Now, if I'm going to buy another roll of Olympus Green 0.55 from Omega Slings, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the roll out. I'm going to cut a 0.5 centimeter strip on there. I'm going to test the elongation to make sure that nothing's changed in the band. I do this with every single roll I buy on every single brand, even if I've bought that before, just to make sure that nothing has changed in the recipe. If it's still the same, then all your other information that you wrote on your paper stays the same, and you just take the paper out of this bag and you drop it into the next bag and call it done. That's all I got for you today, guys. I hope you guys find this video useful. I think there's a lot of good information in here, and I think this should cover any questions that you have on your bands. But just remember, there is no set active band length for anybody. It's what you choose to use on how you set up your bands. And as long as you're understanding what the active band length means, which is the part of band that you're going to use as the mechanism to launch your ammo, but not in a stretched position, not a loaded position, in a flat, relaxed position, laid out flat on your table. That's your active band length. And then you've got your pouch attachment, and then you've got your fork attachment. So when anybody's asking you what your active band length is, you could say, this is my active band length, plus I add for pouch and whatever, and I cut my bands at a total of, in this case, 13.5 centimeters. And here we are with a badass set of bands that are ready to go ripping holes through some cans. All right, boys and girls, that's it for me. Thanks a lot for watching. You guys stay safe, get out and practice, be good to each other. I'll see you again soon. I love you guys. You're freaking awesome. I'm going to put some pouches on those other two bands. Bye for now.
Hey, thanks for watching, guys. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button for me and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, the good thing is, guys, you could always use this information for another elastic that you've tested or another brand that has the same elongation. It'll all work. On this end screen here, I'm going to add a couple of more band tests, maybe a playlist of tutorials as well, or quick tips. You guys take care. I'll see you again soon. Stay safe and shoot straight. Bye for now.